In the United States of America, you don't have to apologize for being white anymore.
So there's always this question, and J.D. Vance, I'm pretty sure everyone saw that already, about whether it's okay to be white. I won't say whether it's okay to be white. I'll just explain to you what whiteness is, and then I'll give you some breakdown of, how people experience whiteness or how they are around whiteness and all that good stuff. So let's explain what whiteness is first of all. Whiteness is a complex social structure, not just skin color, that functions as a system of power and privilege defining norms and advantages for people of European descent, particularly as used as a historical tool to create racial hierarchies justifying slavery and colonialism. It operates as an unmarked default standpoint, making white culture practices seem universal while granting unearned benefits, privileges, and establishing itself as a standard against which other racial groups are measured and marginalized. So, once again, it's a social construct invented and defined historically around the 17th century in the Caribbean to create distinctions, consolidate power, and justify systems like slavery, assigning rights and status based on perceived racial differences. Structural advantage, a location of unearned benefits, access, and power embedded in social systems, laws, and institutions often invisible to those who possess. So, yeah, that's just the basic fundamental understanding of whiteness as a concept. All right, so I explained the concept of whiteness now. So with the person who is who identifies as a white person and upholds and it has white pride and loves whiteness and says I'm proud to be white. That is basically what I just explained to you. It's them being proud of colonialism, upholding white supremacy, perpetuating their benefits, loving the fact that they have the benefits while oppressing everyone else that's not white. If you want to see if that's right or wrong, I guess that pertains to the person. If you agree with that concept in those systems, then yeah, whiteness is fine. But if you're a white person, quote unquote, who claims that you do not like the oppression, but you still get defended or you still get defensive when someone speaks of whiteness negatively, then you are directly upholding white supremacy and you are in fact a racist and a white supremacist. Now, with that being said, there's a lot of black people or, minority groups who want to uphold whiteness. And one factor of whiteness is disparaging black Americans, specifically black Americans, because immigrants will come to this country and also disparage black Americans. I honestly believe that it's black Americans versus the world, because no matter what, even if they share the same skin as us, they still uphold and have the idea of whiteness within their head due to propaganda and them trying to assimilate to be, the white man's pet and, not basically for the white man to turn a blind eye to them so they can be inoffensive as possible. And this is what also Latin America, you can see all the anti-blackness within Latin America, the ideology that was pushed to them by their colonizers, et cetera, et cetera. So a lot of people identify, and the reality is that they want to be white. They want to identify with this social construct of whiteness. But the funny part about that is they will never be that, because the concept of whiteness literally, now it's attached to phenotype and being a European. So therefore, they will never be able to assimilate to that unless they're a white Hispanic. Then they can do that by, basically ignoring their culture that they have within their country and et cetera, et cetera. But my next topic will be white pride. So like I said already, being proud of being white is basically being proud of being someone who holds privileges, oppresses others for their own benefit. Yeah, and being proud of colonialism. So the only logical conclusion of identifying with whiteness would be the white supremacist, the overt white supremacist, because every white person is a white supremacist because they identify with the idea of whiteness. So the only and the most logical conclusion will be the white supremacist, like Nick Fuentes. Even though he's a Mexican, he wouldn't even have been considered a white person originally. But anyways, I digress. The only logical conclusion to being a white person would be to be a bigoted white supremacist. Now, white supremacy is a spectrum. There's some who, they're not overtly hateful and bigoted, and they might not even look at themselves as a bad person, but they still hold these ideologies and implicit biases against black people towards the benefit of themselves. They will often cite statistics like, 1350, which are just narratives that were used to be pushed against black people from the inception of this country that were more violent and, all the other animalistic and, to dehumanize us. So this is nothing new. So, yeah, like I said, the only conclusion, the logical conclusion of being a white person and subscribing to whiteness would be white supremacy, the bigoted kind. So as long as you sit there and you identify with that concept of whiteness, then you are an oppressor, a colonizer, and you actually don't care about anybody else but yourself. But I'm pretty sure many of you all know this. Many of them do know this, but they don't care because it benefits them. So that's my conclusion, and that's the talk for today.